The definition of integrated wild pig control is a strategic approach using a series of innovative lethal control methods and technologies implemented in a specific sequence based on seasonal food sources. Emphasis is placed on efficient whole sounder removal at one time to eliminate escapes, method education, and future reproduction. The control strategies continually change throughout the various seasons to effectively target adaptive survivors. We use a simple equation to measure and improve our integrated wild pig control results. People plus process plus product equals performance. Trained people must execute an effective work process using efficient products capable of achieving the stated performance standard. By now, you should know our performance standard is 100% removal of the entire sounder, spending the least amount of fuel, time, labor, and money, which is a quantifiable and measurable mission. The performance standard determines whether the mission has been met. It must be established first because all variables are measured from the mission's success or failure. Mission failure can be isolated to either untrained people, an ineffective process, an inefficient product, or a combination of these variables. People are the most important part of a successful wild pig control equation. They must be properly trained to implement an effective work process and operate efficient products. A helicopter is merely an expensive aircraft incapable of flight without a properly trained pilot to fly it. A thermoscope is only an expensive night optic without a properly trained marksman to aim it. A corral trap is just an expensive metal contraption without a properly trained professional to build it in the correct location and trigger the gate closed at the correct time. People are also responsible for the leadership task of selecting the most efficient process and product to implement in the correct sequence based on seasonal food sources. Process is a method or strategy used to achieve the performance standard. Trained people will focus their attention on specific processes which achieve the most effective results. Control processes are cyclical and should be implemented in a specific sequence based on seasonal food sources. The trapping process will be more effective during winter months, and the night shooting process will be more effective during spring planting and fall harvest. The product is a physical object, invention, machine, or technology used to perform the control process. Trained people will focus their attention on specific products which achieve the most efficient results. Control products are also cyclical and should be utilized in the correct sequence based on seasonal food sources. When 100% removal of the entire sounder, spending the least amount of fuel, time, labor, and money is a stated performance standard, then a semi-automatic rifle with a 20-round magazine is a more efficient product than shooting a bolt-action rifle with a 4-round magazine. A 35-foot diameter corral trap is more efficient than a 5x10 portable box trap. An 8-foot wide gate threshold is more efficient than a narrow 3-foot wide continuous catch door. An 1860 trap panel is more efficient than a commercial cattle panel. An automatic feeder is more efficient than pouring bait from a bucket, and a cellular remote control gate trigger is more efficient than a traditional tripwire. It is pointless to use a person, process, or product which is incapable of whole sounder removal. Let's review a series of photo examples to practice isolating mission failure. A Florida newspaper posted this photo of 2 sows and 5 piglets rooting a homeowner's yard. These 7 pigs had no problem entering the backyard through this fence opening. The story contained a box trap photo with corn eaten to the gate threshold and chicken wire covering the cattle panels. Mission failure is due to an untrained person implementing a 3-foot by 5-foot inefficient product which would make it nearly impossible to capture all 7 pigs. This box trap is made from 4-inch by 4-inch sheep and goat panels, allowing 4 piglets to escape. Mission failure is due to an untrained person using a box trap, an incompetent person for using a box trap with sheep and goat panels. This farmer placed a 5-foot by 8-foot box trap in a July cornfield baited with corn. Mission failure is due to an untrained person trapping in a July cornfield. There is no motivation for pigs to enter a trap for corn when they have access to an entire 100-acre cornfield. It would be incompetent to use a box trap with sheep and goat panels, even in winter. This farmer used 2 cattle panels to create a figure 6 trap with no gate and no trigger. Mission failure is due to an untrained person implementing a figure 6 in the summer. Again, trapping is a wrong process in a July cornfield. It would be incompetent to use a figure 6 with cattle panels, even in the winter. Mission failure is due to an untrained person installing our M.I.N.E gate backwards. Mission failure is due to an untrained person improperly installing our M.I.N.E gate and allowing an escape. Mission failure is due to an untrained person triggering our gate closed on only 2 of 8 pigs for 25% success. The common variable among every mission failure example was untrained people making incompetent decisions. To accomplish the performance standard, people must make performance-based decisions. Trained people selecting an effective process and efficient product, capable of whole sounder removal in the shortest time possible, is critical to implementing a successful integrated wild pig control program. Integrated wild pig control is both art and science. We define art as skill acquired by experience, study, or observation, which is the people or the artist part of the solution. We define science as the core methods, technology, and mechanics, which is the process and product part of the solution. Properly executing our integrated model involves the art of human thought, creative application, discipline, patience, and experience, combined with the science of using the most efficient methods and technology to accomplish whole sounder removal. So if art is a skill acquired by experience, study, or observation, then it can be taught and learned through training. However, there is a difference between education and training. An ancient truism says that if you give a man a fish, you feed him for a day. But if you teach a man to fish, you feed him for life. My goal is to take it one step further and teach him the art and science of fishing. Education is learning a theory or concept in a classroom to increase individual knowledge about a topic. It is a more passive way of learning by memorizing information that school-based education often promotes. Education is what academia and extension provide to farmers and landowners during a feral swine workshop. Training is developing specific skills through hands-on practical application to improve individual performance and productivity. Taking it one step further, training identifies repeatable steps required to measure and determine whether a task is performed to a performance standard. Skill building is very different from school learning. Skill building is very active, hands-on type of training, requiring strategy, deliberate practice, observation, thinking, and lots of repetition. You train people for performance. You educate people for understanding. The best trainers can tell you exactly what to do, how to do it, and why it must be accomplished in a specific way. People learn most effectively by doing, but first they must understand what, how, and why. Integrated wild pig control is a strategic balance of both art and science. Success originates from the individual artist implementing the most effective and efficient science. Most of you are familiar with the pest control company Orkin. Their tagline is pest control down to a science, and to catch a pest, you've got to think like a pest. This is my favorite Orkin commercial.
But I know where they are. Going from here to there. And what time of year to bait them with protein? When to bait with fat.
The Orkin man knows what time of year to bait with a protein and when to bait with fat. All pest control companies use the same seasonal food source approach, regardless of the species. Insect versus mammal makes no difference to the legal definition of a pest or the best management practices needed to control them. The integrated wild pig control model allows us to select the best control process and product based on seasonal food sources. The following demonstrates the seasonal changes in a typical agricultural application. Winter months provide the optimum trapping opportunity. This is usually the coldest time of year, and hogs must burn more calories to stay warm. The fall mass crops of acorns and hickory nuts have been eaten, and no other agricultural row crops are planted. It is easier to bait wild pigs to automatic feeders in the winter than any other season. The winner strategy is to capture entire sounders of juvenile pigs, subadults, nursing sows, and pregnant sows as they pattern to these supplemental bait sites. This strategy should eliminate 70 to 80% of the total property population in 90 days when performed correctly. Spring months provide the optimum shooting opportunities at night and will target an additional 10 to 20% of the feral swine population, as there are too many food sources available for traps to be effective. The control strategy must switch to night shooting operations using infrared optics mounted on semi-automatic .308 caliber rifles, targeting dominant boars and any other pigs, avoiding winter corral traps. The summer strategy focuses on eliminating the remaining 10% of the population by targeting warm weather wallows, rubs, water sources, food sources, and trails. The fall strategy targets maturing row crops such as corn and peanuts, as well as falling mass crops such as acorns and hickory nuts. The purpose of performing reconnaissance, recon, and gathering intelligence, intel, is to document exact feral pig populations, pattern their movement, understand their behavior, and select the most efficient control process and product. Each sounder has a unique population dynamic, behavior, and education level. We must establish a baseline population of each individual sounder to effectively measure the performance standard against the control process and product selected. The most practical intel can be provided by landowners, farmers, and hunters currently having a stake in the property management. Use local maps and satellite images to help current stakeholders identify likely bedding areas, establish feeders, natural food sources, travel corridors, choke points, and locations where they have witnessed rooting, crop damage, wallows, and rubs. Hog control operators should have enough information to efficiently conduct a personal recon of the property using the map and verbal data collected from the stakeholders. Start with the most likely food or water sources and avoid entering probable bedding areas to prevent disturbing pigs. Walk or drive downwind and parallel to possible bedding areas, looking for well-used trails, rubs, and wallows. The key to achieving whole sounder success is to incorporate a process whereas the population dynamics and education level of each individual sounder dictates the time between each step. This information is based on photo and video observations from the bait site. There are 3 important steps to properly implement our capture success matrix. Step 1. Condition pigs to trust the bait site as a daily food source. Step 2. Condition pigs to trust the trap enclosure as a daily food source. And Step 3. Capture the entire sounder by using the optimum trigger device. Winter is the best time to condition pigs to trust a daily supplemental food source. It is the coldest time of year, fall mass crops have been eaten, and no other agricultural row crops are planted. The goal is to position a spin cast feeder between their bedding area and current winter food source. Remember, the bait site will eventually become the trap site, and performing this task correctly will increase trapping efficiency. Pre-baiting is the process of providing daily supplemental feed until pigs are conditioned to trust the bait site as a daily food source. The 2 most common delivery methods are either a spin cast feeder with digital timer or hand baiting with a bucket. Hand baiting requires daily fuel, time, and labor costs. Seldom is hand baiting performed at regular intervals. Shelled corn is our bait of choice unless the sounder is already feeding on something else, such as deer protein pellets or peanuts. The following photos demonstrate 9 consecutive mornings of a feeder dispensing corn at 7 a.m. Notice timestamps of pigs feeding are within minutes of spend times. Pigs will become conditioned to the bait site if food is provided daily at the same time. Give them a consistent pattern to follow. I purposely offset the camera to observe pigs feeding outside the perimeter of our 35-foot diameter mine trapping system. Therefore, our preferred feeder is a UV-resistant 30-gallon plastic hopper with a dinner bell. The feeder is light, durable, and portable, yet holds 180 pounds of corn, which is enough to throw 6 pounds daily for 30 days. Our proprietary metal dinner bell serves 2 purposes. First, the device produces a loud metallic ring when the motor spin plate slings corn against it. Pigs are the 4th most intelligent animal on the planet, and they quickly learn to associate this distinctive sound with food. Second, the cone shape ensures all bait stays inside the trap enclosure within a 15-foot diameter circle. There are 3 reasons we elevate our 30-gallon feeder control box at least 6 feet off the ground. First, it prevents feral pigs from reaching the feeder kit and damaging components. Second, the height allows photos and videos of pigs feeding without obstructing our vision outside the M.I.N.E gate. Lastly, the height allows comfortable access to the digital timer controls and feeder kit without bending over. Set the digital timer to dispense bait at dusk to help prevent bait loss to non-target species such as birds, squirrels, and deer. During winter months, most pigs learn to stay bedded in thick cover during the day to avoid increased pressure during deer season. Supplement each new bait site with a gallon of soured corn the first day only. The foul aroma helps pigs immediately find the new location if a suitable bait site has been selected. We strategically erect feeders based on our reconnaissance, at least 300 to 500 acres apart, to target multiple home ranges. In conclusion, an 8-foot-tall automatic feeder with digital timer is our performance standard. We want technology to perform the task of conditioning pigs to feed at an exact time by releasing the same bait quantity in multiple locations every single day without wasting fuel, time, labor, or money. It is the most cost-effective process and most efficient product available to condition pigs to trust a daily food source. An ice camera should be located 20 feet from the feeder to begin gathering intel of feral pig populations within each sounder. The T-post itself consists of 2 components, the spine and studs. Start by driving a 7-foot-long T-post 24 inches into the ground, with studs facing the feeder. The JAGER PRO T-post camera mount consists of 7 individual components: round collar, collar thumb screw, 4-inch mounting arm thumb screw, swivel ball stud with 1/4 by 20 threads, ball head adjusting nut, and the ball compression screw. Align 1/4 20 threads with the camera mounting port. Caution: thread the swivel ball stud no more than 3 complete rotations into the port, or camera housing damage may result. Tighten ball head adjusting nut securely to camera port. Lower the round collar over the T-post spine in between the 2 top studs. Then tighten the collar thumb screw against the T-post spine to secure the mount with 3 contact points. This example is correct, using all 3 contact points. This is an incorrect installation, using only 2 contact points. This installation is also incorrect, using only 2 contact points. Align the 4-inch mounting arm towards the feeder by loosening the arm thumb screw. Align the camera by loosening the ball compression screw and centering the view. Tighten both the arm thumb screw and ball compression screw to secure the camera. Secure battery box mount to the round collar. Then install the 6-volt battery box onto the mount. Insert battery's 6-volt barrel plug into the camera's DC port. Secure a wiring harness to the 4-inch mounting arm with a zip tie. The ICE camera's passive infrared motion detector is specifically designed to operate from this height and angle. This is the best alignment for maximum motion detection and nighttime photo illumination. Receive a test photo to ensure the feeder control box appears at the top, with bait centered in the photo. This 19 December photo shows 12 adults at the bait site, while the 20th displays the same 12 adults. We position high-definition video cameras along travel routes and potential bait sites to quickly determine the total number of sounders, total population of pigs within each sounder, number of adults versus juveniles per sounder, and the number of adults totally avoiding a bait site or feeder. Only then will we have enough intel and data to select the most efficient people, process, and product to accomplish the stated performance standard of whole sounder removal, expending the least amount of fuel, time, labor, and money. This intel becomes the baseline data for our weekly mission requirements. We must measure our final results against a quantifiable goal to determine mission success or failure and calculate our return on labor. We now have enough data to plan the mission, so I'll take you through the process step by step. Camera utilized was a JAGER PRO IceCam. The IceCam photo shows the month is December and the evening temperature is 46 degrees. We've established an automatic feeder as a food source. Sounder intel shows 12 adults and no juveniles, for a total of 12. We have determined one trained and certified hall control operator will employ the trapping process using one M.I.N.E trapping system. Our performance standard is 100% success, which means we must remove all 12 pigs, expending the least amount of fuel, time, labor, and money. Planning is complete. Now we must efficiently execute the mission. Step 1 of our Capture Success Matrix has now been accomplished. Our M.I.N.E trapping system can be configured as either a single gate or a double gate enclosure. So let's demonstrate the pros and cons of each. The first consideration for choosing a single or double gate depends on the established game trails or travel routes to the bait site. An automatic feeder for a single gate trap enclosure should be erected at least 20 feet from the established game trail. This strategic plan leaves enough room to build a standard 32-foot diameter M.I.N.E trapping system with an 8-foot wide gate positioned near the game trail. Let's demonstrate what happens when the feeder is erected too close to the game trail. There's not enough room for the trap to be built without enclosing part of the trail inside. I learned this important lesson back in January of 2013. 2 sows arrived with their 10 pigs at 02:30 from their bedding area. The matriarch sow attempts to depart the bait site on the well-used trail, then realizes her path is blocked by a metal object. She quickly exits the trap enclosure, taking the entire sounder with her. The matriarch never returned and had to be shot, while it took an additional 13 days to finally capture these 11 on February 1st. The advantages of building a single gate trap enclosure include a lower cost and less labor, because there is one less gate to purchase and install. This example demonstrates success using only 8 rigid panels to capture 6 orphan juveniles, instead of spending the additional time and labor to erect all 12 panels. The biggest disadvantages one gate creates are longer conditioning times for some adults and total trap avoidance for others. Adult sows may observe their offspring feeding inside the trap for several days or nights before trusting the enclosure enough to enter themselves. Some pigs who have been previously educated simply do not trust a single entrance. But high-volume success is definitely obtainable when the Capture Success Matrix is performed correctly. My preference is a double gate trap enclosure, as a feeder can be erected directly on the game trail. Our M.I.N.E trapping system positions both gates on the trail, on either side of the feeder. The advantages of building a double gate trap enclosure include shorter conditioning times for adults to increase our trapping efficiency and productivity. This example shows 13 adults using both thresholds to enter the trap site. Subordinate borers do not feel comfortable entering a trap enclosure with only one entrance, as they cannot escape a dominant borer. A double gate setup also allows the ability to use terrain and fencing as a natural travel corridor to increase capture efficiency. Changing gate positions within the trap design is important to quickly condition pigs to the enclosure. It offers far more flexibility and creativity in multiple habitats than a single gate. The biggest disadvantage is the additional cost and labor required to purchase and install 2 gates. I would argue the increased efficiency and return on labor achieved by operating a double gate system, pays for itself during the first month. The population dynamics and education level of each individual sounder will dictate the conditioning time to trust the trap enclosure as a daily food source. We must measure the performance of each individual event to validate our choice between a single gate or a double gate trap enclosure. Experienced hog control operators use every possible strategic advantage to immediately capitalize on the given situation. Trap-resistant pigs may not give us a second chance at whole sounder success. Now we may begin step 2 of our capture success matrix. Condition pigs to trust the trap enclosure as a daily food source. Using previous intel gathered, install gate near the trail facing the natural direction pigs are traveling to the feeder. Measure 16 feet from the feeder center as the first post location. Drive a 7-foot-long T-post on the outside of the trap with studs facing the gate. Drive 2 feet into the ground, leaving no more than 5 feet above ground, to clear slide rail nuts and lock washers. The slide rail should be inside the trap. Place gate in position to measure location of opposite support post, and drive another T-post 2 feet into the ground. Secure gate frame to both T-posts at top and bottom using a total of 4 square bent U-bolts. Start with lock nuts threaded 1 1/2 inches from the end. Standing outside the trap, place the flat side of the square U-bolt around the gate frame with open end across T-post spine. Install the 2 1/2 inch plate first, followed by a washer and nut on each thread. Slowly tighten both nuts back and forth with a 1/2 inch socket to bend the plate around the T-post spine. Performed correctly, the V-shaped plate will easily slide on the U-bolt during future installations. Ensure the gate frame is level and square for consistent operation, and repeat steps to install all 4 U-bolts. Many government contracts are worded to eliminate T-posts from use during trap installation. This is an amateur mistake made by inexperienced procurement or field personnel. The patented M.I.N.E trapping system was designed specifically for feral pig impact, constructed of a 16-gauge steel frame with a 2-inch by 4-inch 6-gauge steel panel. The T-post is designed to be flexible, which absorbs impact energy instead of being rigid to crack or break any welds. Escapes and equipment damage will occur if users fail to follow our installation standards and euthanization protocols. Locate the 1/8 inch connecting rod and white actuator clevis inside the control box plastic bag. Push the connecting rod through the plastic clevis, then slide the connecting rod through the actuator hole inside the control box. Align the slots and gently snap the clevis onto the actuator arm. Rotate until connecting rod is level and aligned with the actuator hole. Work connecting rod in and out to ensure there is no binding. Place control box onto the gate frame near the angle bracket. Hold rod adapter with pliers, then turn set screw with a 3/32 Allen wrench to break Loctite seal at threads. We wrap the 3/32 Allen wrench with tape to speed recovery if it's dropped in vegetation. Place rod adapter through latch arm from outside to inside. Guide connecting rod through rod adapter while sliding the control box tight against the trigger assembly. Secure control box to gate frame using a 3/8 nut driver and drill to anchor 4 self-tapping 3/4 inch long screws. Carefully feed antenna through the control box rubber grommet without damaging the receiver inside. Feed antenna wire through the 1/8 inch diameter antenna tube until it clears the opposite end. slide antenna tube into rubber grommet until it becomes visible inside the control box. Move connecting rod fully in and fully out to locate the midpoint. Turn set screw clockwise inside the rod adapter using a 3/32 Allen wrench to secure connecting rod to trigger latch. Do not over-tighten. Place padding against actuator. Then install the 12-volt 7.5 amp-hour battery onto Velcro inside the control box, with terminals on the left. Connect red wire to positive battery terminal and black wire to negative battery terminal. Never transport the M.I.N.E gate with a battery inside the control box, or severe damage to electronics and battery will occur. Always disconnect battery when not in use. Excessive discharge will damage the battery. If gate is at the 6 o'clock position, measure 16 feet from the feeder center to 9 o'clock, 12 o'clock, and 3 o'clock, and place a 5-foot-long connecting rod in the ground as a benchmark. Start at right side of gate and position 3 rigid trap panels in an arc to the 3 o'clock connecting rod. Ensure the 1-inch steel frame is facing out and the 1860 panels are facing inside the trap enclosure. Secure rigid trap panels using the 5-foot-long connecting rods. Do not drive stakes into the ground until all 12 trap panels are positioned. Repeat steps to position and loosely secure all 12 panels in a circular shape around the feeder, using the 12 o'clock and 9 o'clock connecting rods as benchmarks. Secure panel number 12 to the gate using the final 5-foot-long connecting rod. Drive all connecting rods into the ground using a sledgehammer. In sandy soil, we recommend driving a 7-foot-long T-post at 9 o'clock, 12 o'clock, and 3 o'clock to ensure rigid trap panels are not moved or lifted after capture. The M.I.N.E camera has an internal transmitter on the circuit board and must be located within 25 yards of the M.I.N.E gate to operate correctly. Users must manually synchronize the camera transmitter signal to the control box receiver the first time they are paired together. Hold M.I.N.E camera next to the gate control box. Move the M.I.N.E live video camera selector switch from off to on. Open control box housing and press receiver button. The receiver red light will only emit for 10 to 15 seconds. Press camera left arrow and release, then press camera right arrow and release. Then press OK to send a manual RF signal to the control box. RF trigger will appear on the camera screen, and the receiver light should flash 3 times, then shut off when performed correctly. Test synchronization by closing gate latch and repeating the manual RF trigger step. Turn camera off until it is mounted on the T-post. The M.I.N.E camera should be located on the opposite side of the trap viewing the M.I.N.E gate to verify all pigs are inside the gate threshold. Measure 12 inches outside the trap enclosure, then drive a 7-foot-long T-post at least 24 inches into the ground. The T-post spine should face panels. Zip tie a second 7-foot-long T-post to the first T-post to elevate the M.I.N.E camera above the 1860 rigid trap panel. The T-post studs should face panels. Align 1/4 20 threads with a camera mounting port. Thread the swivel ball stud no more than 3 complete rotations into the port. Tighten ball head adjusting nut securely to camera port. Lower the round collar over the T-post spine and between the 2 top studs. Then tighten collar thumb screw against the T-post spine to secure the mount with 3 contact points. Tighten both the arm thumb screw and ball compression screw to secure the camera view. Insert 12-volt barrel plug from the battery box wiring harness into the camera's DC port. Secure wiring harness to the 4-inch mounting arm with a zip tie. Adjust the T-post camera mount at a downward angle and tighten the ball compression screw. Receive a test photo or view live video stream to adjust the T-post camera mount until the gate control box is at the top, with feeder centered in the photo. This camera position produces maximum motion detection and nighttime illumination. Ensure the trip arm is in the fully upright position. Take a knee, then raise the gate with both hands. Hold the gate in the fully raised position with the left hand, and lower the trip arm striker into the latch with the right hand. Ensure the latch is fully closed by pressing the latch arm upward. Center the gate by checking the slide rail collar on both sides, and observe the trigger square stock on the trip arm. Slightly adjust gate if needed to square the frame. Always final test gates using the JAGER Pro mobile app while observing live video. This ensures the M.I.N.E camera transmitter is paired with the control box receiver and the system is working properly through our server. Ensure feeder digital timer is set to dispense 20 seconds of bait at dusk. Test feeder by pressing and holding the set button while the run time seconds are displayed. Release the button and move away from the feeder before motor starts spinning. Providing the correct amount of bait creates a sense of urgency for the entire sounder to quickly enter the gate threshold and feed immediately upon arrival. Excessive baiting is expensive and conditions pigs to be lazy and feed randomly. This footage will demonstrate negative pig behavior after baiting incorrectly. First, do not touch bait with your bare hands and transfer human scent to the food source. Second, do not bait across the gate threshold. Observe the problem created by spreading bait across the entire width of the gate threshold. There is no incentive for a pig to move forward into the trap enclosure. This baiting scheme creates a traffic jam, with pigs spread out at the gate. As a safety precaution, always secure the gate open using our gate safety clip prior to performing any work inside the trap. This baiting pattern is more efficient. Pour a single line from gate threshold to feeder on the first night only. Don't be afraid to bait heavy the first night after building a trap enclosure. Baiting in a single line through the gate center creates symmetry and balance with steady traffic flow. Often, with an educated sounder, we need the young, dumb juveniles to be comfortable inside the trap enclosure before we are able to gain the adult's trust. This strategy gives other adults a chance to feed in close proximity to the trap to begin trusting the enclosure. This sounder is now conditioned to trust the trap enclosure as a daily food source, and step 2 of the Capture Success Matrix is accomplished. Mission planning identifies the sounder total at this location is 14. Camera trigger is set at 2-minute intervals, and a single bore enters first at 21:52. 2 adults are feeding inside the trap enclosure at 21:54, with a third adult outside. 4 adults enter by 21:56. 5 adults are feeding at 22:07, and 13 of 14 cross the M.I.N.E gate threshold by 22:09. Connect to streaming video and observe the last adult sow pacing outside the trap. Press the record button on the video screen to save high-definition 1080p video to the camera's micro SD card. She is number 14 and the final pig left in the sounder. The goal or mission is to trigger the gate closed after she enters the trap by simply pressing a button on the video screen. The mine trapping system produced a 94% capture rate on the Flint River project during the months of January, February, and March. This means at least 6% of the winter pig population would not enter the trap and had to be shot outside the enclosure. As with all control tasks, there are various strategies which are more efficient than others. Standard operating procedures for certified hog control operators require feral pigs to be euthanized inside the trap enclosure within 1 hour of capture. Since most captures occur at night, this 1-hour protocol substantially improves our odds of eliminating stragglers outside the enclosure before they depart the trap site. Let's demonstrate a successful approach to a closed trap to understand the various performance measures required to stalk and shoot a trap-resistant pig. Dominant boars or matriarch sows outside the trap should not be a surprise to an operator. Each capture must be a performance-based decision after gathering a week of intel. Users control all gate triggers through our mobile app. Our preferred choice for ultra-quiet transportation is an electric utility vehicle such as the Polaris Ranger EV. All JAGER Pro UTVs are equipped with proprietary gun scabbards to securely hold our thermoscoped .308 caliber semi-automatic rifles with muzzles pointed in a safe, upright position. Rifles are placed stock first into the gun scabbard, with trigger housing towards the back. A recessed area allows pistol grips and 20-round magazines to extend through. Each firearm is secured with a heavy-duty barrel strap. An immediate response is required to increase the probability of hole sounder success. Choose a travel route downwind of the trap enclosure. Quietly drive to the area without using any headlights. Park the utility vehicle at least 200 yards downwind of the trap. Secure a thermal-scoped rifle with tripod for shooting, and a thermal monocular for safe scanning. On foot, approach the trap enclosure from downwind, exercising noise and light discipline. Stalk within a comfortable shooting distance based on conditions. Scan the trap site and surrounding area with a thermal monocular to detect additional targets outside the trap enclosure. Erect a tripod shooting stick. Assume a standing, tripod-supported shooting position. Scan trap site with a thermal scope to evaluate target locations while mentally preparing an efficient shooting plan. Engage targets outside the trap enclosure with a suppressed semi-automatic rifle. Notice pigs inside the trap did not react to the shot when using a suppressor. Harvest results indicate 16 pigs trapped plus 1 shot for 17 of 17 efficiency and 100% hole sounder success. Lance will demonstrate the same approach with 2 pigs outside the trap, using the picture-in-picture feature on the thermal scope. Harvest results indicate 13 pigs trapped plus 2 shot for 15 of 15 efficiency and 100% hole sounder success. Our integrated approach uses a series of control methods and technologies based on the intel we gather each week. The process of approaching a closed trap using a highly skilled hog control operator with high-resolution thermal products is absolutely necessary to remove trap-resistant adults. Eliminating the entire sounder prevents any pig from escaping, surviving, reproducing, or being educated to the removal process or product. The hole sounder concept is crucial to our success. The American Veterinary Medical Association, known as the AVMA, creates the scientific guidelines for humane euthanasia. These techniques induce a rapid and painless death. The AVMA lists a bullet to the brain as a humane method. A properly placed gunshot causes immediate insensibility and a humane death. Under trapping conditions, a gunshot is the only practical method of euthanasia. Research protocols for all JAGER PRO projects require feral pigs to be euthanized inside the trap enclosure within 1 hour of capture. This practice prevents distress vocalizations to any other sounders on the property, which eliminates method education about the mine trapping process. Most captures occur at night, and a 1-hour protocol reduces stress to animals by decreasing the time they are left inside the trap. A nocturnal routine also reduces physical damage to animals and equipment, as feral pigs tend to stand still when blinded by a 1200 lumen light at night. Feral pigs attempt much more violent escapes during daylight hours. Capture protocols require feral pigs to be euthanized inside the trap with a single bullet to the brain from a .22 caliber suppressed rifle using 45-grain subsonic bullets traveling at 970 feet per second. The boar is Triple B from Clay Pit, and this is his skull. The .22 caliber bullet enters above the left eye and lodges in the spinal cord. Free-range protocols require 308 caliber suppressed rifles using 178-grain supersonic bullets traveling at 2,600 feet per second. Both stationary and moving targets are euthanized with a single bullet to the brain or their heart and lung vitals. The boar is Split Ear from Mud Puddle, and this is his skull. The .308 caliber bullet enters beside the right eye and absolutely destroys the opposite side of the cranium. Split Ear and Triple B were both killed the same night and are the same size. I kept their skulls to show the cranial cavity damage and demonstrate how both bullets produce an immediate and humane euthanization. However, a .22 caliber bullet only costs 10 cents, while each .308 bullet costs $1.50. Euthanizing a sounder of 14 only costs $1.40 when shooting a .22, but would cost $21 when shooting a .308, along with pass-through bullet damage to panels, gates, control boxes, and feeder legs. This photo is a cross-section from a skull. It is important to recognize the exact location of a feral pig's brain, especially when using a .22 caliber bullet. Proper bullet placement is absolutely necessary to achieve a humane result. There are multiple possible bullet angles, so let's demonstrate them individually. When the jaw is horizontal to the ground, the perfect frontal impact site is in the center of the forehead above the eye sockets. The bullet should always be directed toward the spinal canal during a frontal shot. The mistake often made during frontal shots is aiming between the eyes, especially when the jaw or snout is angled down. Bullet placement between the eyes at this angle only penetrates the sinus cavity, which is very painful and not at all lethal. When the snout is angled down at the ground, draw a line from the right ear to the left eye and the left ear to the right eye. The perfect frontal impact site is in the center of the forehead, 2 or 3 inches above the eye sockets. Remember, the bullet should always be directed during the spinal canal during a frontal shot. The perfect quartering 2 impact site is slightly above the eye socket to center the cranial cavity. The bullet should always be directed toward the brain center during a quartering 2 shot. The perfect profile or temporal impact site is slightly above the eye socket and below the ear to center the cranial cavity. The bullet should always be directed toward the brain center during a temporal shot. The perfect quartering away impact site is behind the ear aiming towards the opposite eye to center the cranial cavity. The bullet should always be directed toward the brain center during a quartering away shot. Scientifically, a gunshot destroys the brain, which produces an instant loss of consciousness and immediate animal collapse. However, brain electrical activity often continues for another 30 seconds, producing exaggerated muscle activity and limb movement. It is important to recognize these involuntary movements are normal and not an indicator of distress, pain, or suffering, as death is rapid and painless. Remember, humane euthanasia standards are based on scientific guidelines by the AVMA, not our human emotion. As trained and certified hog control operators, we have a professional responsibility to both the animals and our industry to induce a rapid and painless death. Understanding feral pig anatomy while selecting the most efficient process and products to humanely euthanize all age classes in the shortest time possible is absolutely necessary for a successful, integrated wild pig control program. Pigs are displayed dressed for harvest efficiency report photographs and data collection. Report column totals from the single gate capture verify 6 adults and 8 juveniles were removed from this property, for a total of 14 pigs in one event, expending 2.25 hours of labor, which equated to 9.64 minutes of labor per pig. We removed all 14 targeted pigs for 100% removal success, with a go in all measured areas. The annual damage prevented by trapping was $5,600, divided by 2.25 hours, giving us a return on labor of $2,488.89 per hour from trapping, using a single gate trap enclosure.